What are social movements? How do they relate to social justice? How do they relate to each other? These are probably a few questions that you may have, and that is a fantastic place to start. As we have seen in the previous module, social justice as a concept is broad and relates to many different forms of inequities and inequalities that people may face as a result of their economic status, social status, religion, caste, class, so on and so forth. To understand social justice, therefore, there is a need to also understand some key social justice movements which may seem like they exist to fight for a very specific set of rights and for a very specific group of people, but actually all relate to the broader concept of social justice. In this video, we will discuss the many movements that use social justice as a central axis, starting with disability justice. Before we begin to understand the movement, let us learn what is meant by the disability. What are some of the first things that come to mind when you hear the word? You may have thought about physical, mental, or neurological disabilities. Some of these would be visible or apparent, and others may not. A wheelchair using individual, someone using a hearing aid, or an amputee may have come to mind as well. While this understanding of disability is not incorrect, let us examine it further and identify if there are any gaps in what we understand as being a disability. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention describe a disability as any condition, or specifically an impairment, of the body or mind that limits a person's ability to perform certain activities or restricts their participation in the world around them. Disabilities can be related to hearing, vision, movement, communication, memory, learning, mental health, or social relationships. A person can have more than one disability, and disabilities can be present at birth, a result of injuries, progressive, intermittent, or related to a long-standing condition as well. Although people of all races, castes, genders, etc. can be disabled, disability impacts and occurs differently in marginalized groups due to disparities in health and systemic barriers to accessing the care that they may need. In a world that is designed to center able-bodied people, how do you think being disabled affects a person's access to social justice, opportunities, wealth, and privileges? What happens when a disabled person has other intersecting marginalizations as well? Maybe they're queer, maybe they're Dalit, or maybe they're black. The rights of disabled persons and their access to justice are a social justice issue. The disability rights movement has been ongoing since the 1960s and the 1970s and has led to several landmark policy frameworks and social action, such as the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 and the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016 in India. I encourage you to learn more about these frameworks and use an intersectional lens to critique them. A key milestone in this movement is the shift towards a focus on disability justice and not on just disability rights, led by Sins Invalid in 2005. This shift was characterized by the use of an intersectional lens in understanding the experience of disability and the needs of disabled people. The organization laid down the 10 disability justice principles which seek to reframe the conception of disability rights as a social justice issue. While disability rights and disability justice are used interchangeably, it is important to understand that a justice-based framing continues to center equity and fairness in all such efforts rather than centering them around charity. Broadly, this framework centers the intersectional impact of various oppressive ideologies like ableism, racism, casteism, sexism, misogyny, and so on and so forth, that work together to create a compounded and unique impact on disabled people's lives. It also advocates for the leadership capacity of disabled people within and outside justice movements, as well as recognizes the wholeness of disabled people who are not less than just because they are disabled. The framework also prioritizes solidarity between social justice movements and people with different forms of disability, championing for our collective access and liberation. Organizations like Sins Invalid and the Disability Justice Project are important actors within the movement and use a range of tools and methods to further disability justice advocacy around the world. They are also important reminders about the need to understand disability rights, and not just as a matter of charity, but as a matter of rights and justice which every single individual should necessarily have. Are there activists, groups, and organizations within the disability rights and justice movement that you may know of? What about their work do you find inspiring? I hope this video served as a useful introduction to the disability justice movement and its relationship to social justice. In the next video, we will similarly explore the climate justice movement. See you there.